Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of our Talk Sox interviews. This offseason, we've covered quite a few different pitchers. This time, we will be having Hayden Mullins, the 2022 12th round draft pick from Alabama, joining us today. Just to start things off, how's the offseason been going for you?
It's going well. A lot of eating and putting on weight and trying to fit the pitcher's model that we have. Bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah. And so with that, just to backtrack a little bit, and by a little, I mean a few years, when you attended Auburn, was that the only school you considered, or were there others that you had looked at that you might have went to before you committed?
I considered a good amount of schools. I was trying to stay within a drive from home, so
Mhm.
mostly Southeast, few ACC schools, a few SEC schools, and mid majors. But yeah, no, Auburn, Tennessee, and Vandy were my top three, and landed on Auburn.
Yeah. I mean, like you had said, it was a drive. It's not that far from where you were at the time.
Yeah, no, 5 hours wasn't bad.
Mhm. And with it, when you were in high school and even before that, like younger, was it just strictly baseball that you played? Or because I know, in high school, some athletes, they'll play a different sport like each season of the year just to be well rounded. But for you, was it just baseball?
In high school, it was just baseball. Before that, I grew up swimming and I played basketball too. And
Mhm.
then I played a little bit of like
Did
pickup basketball and stuff in high school, but
uh,
nothing too serious, just kind of staying in shape.
mhm. Did anyone else in your family ever play baseball, or were you the first?
I was the first. My dad played football in high school and then a year at Tennessee Tech and a year at Kentucky. But no, I was the first to play baseball.
Okay. So obviously your senior year of high school, things didn't go exactly as planned. The draft had let up, and you know some injuries had occurred. And when you went to college, you started pitching well around, what was it, your sophomore season, I believe it was. But then I forget the exact injury that happened sophomore season. But then you came back junior year, and you were really starting to look well. Before, of course, the Tommy John surgery. Prior to the injury happening that year, did you have a feeling at all that you were going to get drafted?
I mean, I had talked to the teams, gone through the same winter meetings that most guys go through when they're in their draft eligible year of college. We had teams come in and we would put it on the schedule, and everybody would sign up for whatever time they were going to meet with them, and it would just they would rattle them off, 15-minute increments. A lot of guys meeting with them, but I wasn't thinking too much about it. We were really good that year, and I was just focused on making it to the postseason and making it past the regional. Um, and unfortunately, that was cut short. But no, we still made it to Omaha, and that was the end goal that year. So I was just happy to be on a winning team.
Mhm. And I mean, obviously, the experience must be different from, if you had been healthy, but that must have been quite the experience for you altogether, though.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I was just lucky that I could travel with them because usually in college when you're on the IL, you don't really travel with the team, and I saw that my sophomore year because freshman year was COVID. My sophomore year, I was hurt midway through the season, and I didn't get to travel to a lot of the road trips that I would have liked to. So getting to go on the road my junior year for the first, I think it was 9 or 10 SEC series, and then getting to go to Omaha. Those were really cool experiences.
And so, with the Tommy John surgery your junior year, was there ever a point, like rehab timeline wise, that if you didn't enter that draft that year, you could have pitched your senior year, or just the way that rehabbing would have worked, it would have been the end of the season pretty much?
Yeah, no, I did weigh that into my decision of whether going in the draft, going to play out of my junior year, or maybe trying to make it back for my senior year. I actually didn't get surgery until July 14th, and I tore my elbow April 29th, I think. So I had like a 3 month span to where I didn't get surgery yet. I was trying to rehab it and get back to pitch for the postseason. So I realized that I would not get to pitch my senior year, and that kind of weighed into the decision.
All right. So now, at this point, you've decided you're going to go into the draft. Was there any point during the draft where like the Red Sox or possibly even another team sat down and said, like, if you're available in this round, just as an example with the Red Sox, like, if you're available in the 12th round, we're planning to take you? Or was when you got picked, that was a surprise?
It was somewhat of a surprise. They called me, or my agents called me, a couple of picks before I got picked, and they're like, "Hey, the Red Sox are going to take you with the next pick." And that was kind of the heads up that I had. I did have a couple of meetings and phone calls and Zooms with the Red Sox and a couple of organizations, but nothing telling me that I would have been taken anywhere in the draft. Just kind of getting the early stuff out of the way, talking about personality and what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, basically like an interview. And then
Mhm.
get to the 12th round, a couple picks before, and get the phone call. So I was pretty excited.
Yeah, that must have been a great moment for you and your family when the call came in.
Yeah, no, it was awesome because I mean, I'm sitting there in an elbow brace. I was 3 days out of surgery. Um,
Mhm.
so I'm just sitting there in an elbow brace watching the draft, just hoping a team takes a chance. And I was grateful that it was the Red Sox.
Mhm. I mean, obviously, no one wants surgery, but that must have made it feel a little bit better the 3 days later that you still got drafted.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a little bit different of a start to my pro ball career than most guys do because
Mhm.
we report down to Fort Myers pretty early on. I want to say a week or two after getting drafted so we can get all of our physical stuff out of the way and all of that. And we show up and I'm the only one in an elbow brace and I'm immediately thrown into the rehab group. So I didn't really get to
Mhm.
spend much time with the other draft picks and go around the every day-to-day stuff that they were getting to do. It was mostly just rehab work, hit the ground running and try to get back healthy.
Mhm. And then, fast forwarding a little into the next season, 2023, you managed to make four starts between two appearances in the complex league and then two more with Salem. With that feeling to finally step onto a mound and make your professional debut, was it a bit of like a mix of a feeling of relief that you're finally out there with everyone else and also like nerves because now you're realizing like, okay, this is my debut?
Yeah, the nerves are real, and I was happy that I did get 12 months of kind of being around the guys and around the facility, so you get a little bit better acclimated instead of just being thrown into the fire. So yeah, no, going out there, I mean, there are nerves, and it's more just from the last time I was on a mound in game facing real hitters. I got hurt, and that's where
Mhm.
the nerves come from. It's not necessarily the weight of the moment. I mean, yes, it's your debut, but you're just, playing baseball like any other game. It's more about just, I haven't pitched like this in 12 plus months, and we got to get back to it. And I think the command struggled a little bit to start off there, and that probably played a part in it. Is I wasn't used to game like scenarios and facing hitters, controlling the running game and stuff like that. But no, we calmed it down over that next off season, and it felt really good.
Yeah. So obviously, people who watch the game who don't go through the whole process like players do, where they think, oh, they've been rehabbing, they've been doing these side sessions, these bullpens, these simulated games. Clearly, that is a completely different thing from a real game because, you can't really, well, you can only practice the scenarios so much in a game. Clearly, things happen that you can't predict.
Yeah, I mean, you can't replicate a game like scenario as much as you want to. You can throw as many live BPs, live at bats that you can, and you can get up to however many pitches. But once that first pitch is thrown, like you just cannot replicate any game action.
Mhm. And then, like you had said, after 23, you finally had the healthy off season going into 24, and you really got a chance to shine and show the kind of pitcher that you are with Greenville, your first full season, 118 strikeouts and 89 innings. You were able to show an ability to generate whiffs with your pitches. Um, After that, would you have considered yourself a strikeout pitcher, or were the strikeouts in part due to a mix of like the game planning between yourself, the pitching coach, and catching? And your ability to mix pitches and get batters to chase?
That's more of just a result of what our plan is for each pitcher in the Red Sox org.
Mhm.
Um, they lay it out really well and they communicate really well. Where after every start or even in the off season, you're receiving reports of this is what you do well, this is what you don't do so well. These are the things we're going to work on. Here's your drill package. These are the plyos that you probably should be doing to fix some of these inefficiencies. And then all of that, once you go into a game, you're not really thinking about it, but it just plays a part in a lot of success. And you've seen it with a bunch of guys working through the minors. Like they add this one pitch or they use this pitch more, and immediately they're a different pitcher. So, I mean, sometimes it's not as easy of a change as someone like Connolly adding the kick change, and then he's
Yeah.
one of the best rookies in baseball. But um, no, it's definitely from the organization and all the guys that we work with going through bullpens and stuff and just breaking down what we can do better and what we might be really good at and lean on that a little bit.
Mhm. And like speaking about adding pitches, have you felt that your pitch arsenal itself has it changed much since you were originally drafted, or has it been more over these past few years tweaking it and improving upon the pitches you've used before?
I would say it's more tweaking it. I've always
Mhm.
thrown fastball, slider, changeup for most of my life. Now the grips we can alter them in small ways and maybe make the ball move a little bit more downward or a little bit more horizontal. Adding the sweeper was a big step. I added the sweeper in the offseason of 23, and it just came pretty naturally. Right now, we're just trying to push velo with it, like all pitches. And
Mhm.
then this past season, I added a cutter, and I think those will be two really good drivers of success because it's two different shapes, and one's a little bit harder, one's kind of a slower breaking ball. And then changeup's always been a work in progress, but we're working around grips, finding what orients the ball in the best way to make it move the most.
Yeah. So earlier this offseason, we had talked with Blake Wehunt
Mhm.
just because of the cutter. I wanted to bring something up for him. You know, the addition of it was originally to have a pitch that wasn't as slow as his off speed pitch, but wasn't as fast as his fastball. Is that kind of the same idea with your addition of the cutter?
Yeah, I think both Wehunt and we profile fastballs very similarly, and I mean he's 6'6", 6'7". Like he's very tall and he throws a little bit harder than I do. But shape wise, I think our heaters are very similar. And he's got that kind of ride run. I've got ride run, and it just profiles on the movement chart very well with that because it's the opposite side of the x or the y axis. So like you have your fastball moving this way, and then you're just trying to find something in this area that we can throw decently hard and get them off your fastball. And I think both of us adding that cutter is going to be a big step in the right direction.
All right. And so, like you had said last year you had added the sweeper in the 23 off season, the cutter last year. You worked on your changeup. All seems to have worked well together. Past season was fantastic from a pitching standpoint. You know, in the season in Greenville with a 1.06 ERA, quickly promoted to Portland. And with Portland, you continued to pitch well at 2.44 ERA, not to mention between the two, 123 strikeouts, along with, you know, at the end of the season, Portland naming you pitcher of the year for their Double A team, which congratulations for that.
Thank you.
And so between when you were ending in Greenville and called up to Portland, obviously, you know, you had that short stint with the shoulder fatigue. At that point, was there any concern when you first stepped back onto the mound, similar to when you made your first debut in the complex league? Or after having been with the training staff and the conditioning for so long, you knew, you know, I'm back on the mound now because I'm 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there were the same type of nerves going back and pitching because I think I only missed three or so starts.
Yeah.
Um, it's more about just getting that command back because you're not in game. I mean, you miss a week and it feels like you haven't been in a game in forever. And the command's the first thing to go because if you don't have those game repetitions and you're not constantly working on stuff, even if you're playing catch, like that's not replicating what you're doing in the game. So it's very hard to kind of find the spots that you're picking to start your pitches and where you want to land them and sequencing and a lot of different stuff to where if I'm going out there for a game after starting 10 in a row, like that's going to feel a lot more consistent. Every movement's the same. I've been doing this for the last 10 weeks, but then you miss 3 weeks and you're like, oh, it's like starting to throw all over again, similar to the off season when you pick up a ball for the first time, you feel like you can't throw. So that part was a little bit similar to TJ rehab because yes, you're missing game action, and yes, coming back trying to throw strikes immediately is very hard, but the nerves were not really the same just because I didn't miss near as much time.
Mhm. So, how you were saying, like, you miss a week or so, is that kind of the same when the All Star break? Minor leagues don't really have All Stars anymore, but they still have that few days off when the Major League All Star game takes place. Is that kind of the same thing when you guys come back from that break? It takes like the first time out to get back into rhythm, or because of how short of a break it is, it's not much of an effect.
I think because of how short of a break it is, and you're still getting your work in those 4 days. Like, let's say you're starting the first game back after All Star break, you're probably throwing a bullpen 2 days into All Star break, so you're not really missing a beat there. Now, if you're the last guy in the rotation to throw after the All Star break, you'll probably miss a little bit because you won't. It'll be 12 or so days since you've last pitched it on a mound. So that can affect it a little bit. But if you're throwing one of the first games coming out of All Star break, you're doing all your work and getting your catch play in and working on your design and command and all of that stuff. So I think it's a little bit easier if you're on the front end of after All Star break. But if you're on the back end, like it is a little bit tougher.
All right. And we got just two questions left. One is baseball, and one is just a more casual question. So for the last one, obviously, you had a great season, and then at the end of the year, there's uh, a lot of publications, I guess I want to say, writing that you were a top possibility of being taken in the Rule 5 draft. Was there any point this offseason where you thought there was a chance you could be taken?
Not so much. I don't. We don't really communicate with teams when it comes to the Rule 5. Like, if they're going to take you, they're going to take you. So there's not much communication on my end to where I can talk to someone from the Red Sox or my agents or other teams. They're just going to pick you if they want you.
Okay.
So I didn't look too much into it. Uh, if I get Rule 5, then I'm with another organization, start all over. If I'm not, then business as usual, and you just keep going on with your everyday stuff.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Because I wasn't sure if like the Red Sox would reach out to a potential player before just to give like a little heads up or not.
Yeah, and I mean, I wasn't very well versed in it either. Being my first time through this situation, like I didn't understand the whole rules of it, so I did have to actually read up on Rule 5 a little bit. I had known guys that had gone, but I haven't really picked their brain about it. Drohan, I think, being one of them,
Yeah.
hadn't really talked to him much about it. But yeah, it's kind of a weird scenario where something could happen. If it does, you're more surprised by it than anything. If not, then you just stick to what you're doing.
All right. And just the last question. When you were growing up, were there any major league players that you would say were your favorites or that you looked towards as you grew yourself as a player?
I watched a lot of pitchers, both lefties and righties, growing up. Two of my favorites to watch were Kershaw and Verlander when they would go at it. And I mean, we've been blessed with a ton of great starting pitchers with a ton of longevity. Like Kershaw just retiring this year, Verlander still doing it. You got guys like Greinke and Sale. I mean, Scherzer. Like you got everybody still out there pushing 40, and they're throwing meaningful innings in the big leagues, and they're doing it just as good as they were in the early 2000s. But yeah, those are the two that I probably watched the most. I like to watch a lot of old pitchers, just see what they had to offer in terms of stuff and how they attacked hitters, because the game has changed in that aspect a little bit. It used to be a lot more game planning, situationals, tendencies type plays. And now it's more let's look at the numbers and what we should be throwing in these counts, what we should be throwing in these counts. So with the game changing as much, like I haven't looked too much into like a guy like Nolan Ryan, Greg Maddux. But when I was a kid, I loved watching them pitch because that's how we learned to play baseball, was handling situations, controlling the running game, fielding your position, all the fundamental stuff about baseball. And now it's more of a learning curve of like, okay, we got to learn how to make the slider move with a adjustment to the grip or a different cue in terms of wrist position. So like it's changed, and watching new guys come through like Scooble, Skeens, even Connolly and Tolley, like those are guys that I really love to watch now and see how they do it at such a high level and see if I can learn from that.
All right. And thank you once again for sitting down and joining us today. Good luck for the rest of the off season and for a great spring training and a 2026 season.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.